What if I told you the next food shortage is already on its way, and it's not just about empty shelves? Prices are spiking, supply chains are breaking down, and panic buying is back with a vengeance. But here's the truth. There are foods that never go bad, no matter what happens. Stockpile them now, and they'll still be edible in 10, 20, even 100 years. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which foods to buy before the next wave hits. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Hey everyone, welcome back. So lately I've been diving deep into the world of emergency preparedness, talking to survival experts, preppers, and even digging into USDA reports on long-term food storage. And what I found was eye-opening. We're seeing more frequent food shortages, inflation-driven price jumps, and global disruptions than ever before. But amid all that uncertainty, there are pantry staples that laugh at expiration dates. In today's video, I'm giving you the ultimate list, 18 non-perishable foods that last forever or close to it. Whether you're preparing for emergencies, saving money, or just love having snacks on hand, these are the foods you need to stockpile now. You'll also discover why honey never spoils, how salt has no expiration date, and which everyday items have secretly been surviving centuries. So, before we get started, drop a quick comment below. Have you noticed any strange price hikes or weird shortages at your local store recently? Let's hear your stories. 1. Honey. Let's start with something sweet. Really sweet. Imagine opening a jar of honey that's been sitting around for thousands of years and still being able to eat it. Sounds crazy, right? But guess what? It's true. Archaeologists actually found honey in ancient Egyptian tombs. Yes, tombs. And it was still perfectly edible. We're talking about honey that's over 3,000 years old. Honey doesn't go bad, not ever. And the reason why is pretty fascinating. First off, honey is super low in moisture. Bacteria and microbes need water to grow. But in honey, there's almost none. That makes it nearly impossible for anything gross to grow inside. Then there's the acidity. Honey is naturally acidic, which means it has a pH level that stops bacteria from even thinking about hanging out in there. That's one reason ancient people used honey as medicine. It could help heal wounds and fight infections. And here's another cool fact. Bees make honey in a way that basically locks out time. They collect nectar, dry it out, and store it in honeycombs sealed with wax. Once it's sealed, oxygen can't get in. No oxygen means no spoilage. That's how honey stays fresh forever. You've probably seen honey turn thick or cloudy or even solid over time. That's called crystallization. It's normal. Just warm it up gently, and it goes back to its smooth, golden self. 2. Salt. Salt is more than just a shaker on your table. It's one of those kitchen essentials that's been around since the beginning of time, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Think about how often you use salt sprinkled on fries, mixed into dough, rubbed onto meat. Salt is everywhere in cooking, but what most people don't realize is that salt doesn't expire, like ever. If stored properly, pure salt has an indefinite shelf life. That means you could open a bag from 10 years ago and it would still be just as good as new. Why does this happen? Well, salt is super dry. It holds almost no moisture at all, and without moisture, bacteria can't grow. Mold, yeast, fungus, none of them stand a chance inside a salt container. That's why salt has been used for centuries to preserve other foods like meat and fish. But here's the catch. Salt only lasts forever if it stays dry. If water gets in, things change. Salt clumps up. It might even start to look weird or turn hard. But even then, if you dry it out, it's usually fine. Just break it apart and keep using it like normal. Another cool thing about salt, it doesn't lose flavor over time. Unlike herbs or spices, which fade, salt keeps its punch. So whether you bought it last week or found it in the back of your pantry from who knows when, it's still going to make your food taste amazing. And get this, it was once so valuable that Roman soldiers were paid with it. In fact, the word salary comes from the word salt. That's how important it was. So next time you reach for that shaker, remember, you're holding something that never goes bad. No need to check expiration dates. No need to worry about spoilage. As long as it stays dry, salt is always ready when you are. Keep it sealed, keep it safe, and enjoy the power of a seasoning that truly stands the test of time. 3. Sugar. Sugar is more than just your go-to for cookies and coffee. It's also one of those foods that never goes bad. Yep, you heard that right. Pure sugar doesn't spoil. As long as it stays dry, it can sit in your pantry for decades and still be perfectly usable. No mold, no rot, no weird smells, just pure sweet crystals ready to make your life tastier. The reason sugar lasts forever is simple. It has almost no moisture. Bacteria need water to grow, and since sugar is super dry, there's nothing for bad stuff to feed on. This makes it a natural preservative. In fact, people used to use sugar to help preserve fruits and other foods before refrigerators even existed. If you've ever opened an old bag of sugar and found it clumpy or hard, don't worry, that's normal. It just means the sugar soaked up a little moisture from the air. All you have to do is break it apart or use a fork to loosen it up. Some people even keep a piece of bread or a silica packet in the container to absorb any extra moisture and keep the sugar soft. And here's something cool. Sugar doesn't lose its sweetness over time. Unlike spices that fade, sugar keeps its flavor power for years. So whether you're baking a cake, sweetening your tea, or making homemade jam, old sugar works just as well as new. It's also incredibly versatile. You can use it in cooking, baking, beauty routines, even cleaning around the house. A mix of sugar and oil makes a great scrub, and sugar can help clean stubborn stains on pans. 4. White vinegar. White vinegar is like the quiet hero of your pantry, always ready to help, never asking for anything in return. And here's the best part. It doesn't go bad. Not really. Once you open a bottle, it might lose a little punch over time, but for all intents and purposes, white vinegar lasts forever. The secret behind its long life is acid. Vinegar is packed with acetic acid, which is super effective at keeping bacteria and mold away. That means nothing nasty can grow inside. It also means vinegar is self-preserving. Unlike other liquids that spoil or sour, vinegar just gets stronger with age. You've probably used white vinegar for more than just salads. People use it for cleaning, cooking, pickling, even removing weeds, and no matter how long it sits on your shelf, it's still doing its job. If you've ever noticed cloudy bits floating in your vinegar or a weird film on top, don't panic. That's called the mother. It's harmless. In fact, some people actually like it because it shows the vinegar is raw and full of natural enzymes. You can strain it out or leave it in, it won't hurt anything. Even though vinegar doesn't expire, manufacturers still put a best buy date on the bottle, usually around 5 years. But that's more about flavor strength than safety. Over time, the acidity might drop a little, making it slightly less potent. Still safe, still usable, just maybe not quite as strong. 5. Cornstarch. Cornstarch is one of those quiet pantry heroes that doesn't get enough credit. You might only reach for it when you're making gravy, thickening a sauce, or baking something creamy. But here's the thing, cornstarch never goes bad if you keep it dry. That's right. If stored properly in a sealed container away from moisture, cornstarch can last indefinitely. No mold, no buzz, no weird smells, just pure fine powder ready to do its job whenever you need it. How does that happen? Well, cornstarch is made mostly of starch, which is low in moisture and not a place where bacteria want to hang out. Without water, there's nothing for mold or microbes to feed on, so as long as it stays dry, it stays safe. You might have opened an old box and found it clumpy before. That usually means a little moisture snuck in. If that happens, just break up the clumps with a fork or sift them out. It won't hurt the performance. You'll still get that smooth, thick texture when you cook with it. And here's a fun bonus. Cornstarch isn't just for cooking. People use it for all sorts of things around the house. It makes a great natural deodorant, a gentle face powder, and even helps soothe skin irritation. Some folks even use it to clean their carpets. Unlike baking powder or yeast, cornstarch doesn't lose its power over time. So whether you bought it last month or 5 years ago, it should work just fine, as long as it hasn't been exposed to water or humidity. So next time you're cleaning out your pantry and see that dusty box of cornstarch, don't toss it out of habit. Just give it a quick check. If it looks dry and powdery, then guess what? It's still good to go. Just store it somewhere cool and dry, keep the lid tight, and let it sit quietly until your next recipe calls for it. Because cornstarch really doesn't care about expiration dates, it's built to last. Baking soda is like that one friend who's always there when you need them. Whether you're baking a cake, cleaning your oven, or trying to get rid of fridge smells. And the best part, it doesn't go bad. Not really. As long as it stays dry, baking soda can last indefinitely. No mold, no rot, no expiration date drama, just pure, simple powder ready to help out in a pinch. The reason baking soda lasts so long is because it's super dry and naturally resistant to bacteria. There's no moisture in it for mold or microbes to grow on. That means if you store it properly, like in a sealed container away from humidity, it'll stay just fine for years. Now, here's the small catch. While baking soda doesn't expire, it can lose its potency over time, especially if you're using it for baking. If it's been sitting around for a while, it might not react as strongly with vinegar or help your cookies rise like it used to, but even then, it's still safe to eat and perfect for cleaning, deodorizing, or scrubbing your sinks. So next time you find an old box in the back of your cupboard, don't toss it just yet. Do a quick fizz test, mix a little with vinegar. If it bubbles up, it's still got life. If not, it's still good for cleaning. But maybe time to grab a fresh box for your next batch of pancakes. Keep it sealed tight, store it in a cool, dry place, and let it do its thing. Because baking soda doesn't care about expiration dates. It's built to last. 7. Dried beans. Dried beans are like the quiet heroes of long-term food storage. They don't need refrigeration, they don't go bad, and when stored right, they can last for decades. That's right, decades. If you've ever found an old bag of beans tucked away in your pantry and wondered if they're still good, chances are they are. The secret to their long shelf life is simple. They're dry. Beans are naturally low in moisture, which means bacteria and mold have no chance to grow inside them. As long as they stay dry and are stored in a cool, dark place, they'll keep for years without spoiling. Now, here's something most people don't know. Dried beans actually get harder over time. The older they get, the longer they take to cook. So while they're still safe to eat, you might need to soak them a little longer or give them extra cooking time to get that soft, tender texture you love. So whether you're prepping for emergencies, trying to save money, or just love having meals ready in a snap, dried beans are a must-have in your kitchen. They're cheap, nutritious, and built to last. All you need is water and a little patience when it comes to cooking them. Store them right, keep them dry, and they'll be there when you need them most. Because when it comes to dried beans, time doesn't stand a chance. 8. Rice. Rice is one of those foods that's been around for thousands of years, and not just because people love it. It's also one of the most shelf-stable foods you can stockpile. White rice, in particular, can last for decades if stored properly. Yep, you read that right. Decades. The key to rice's long life is its low moisture content. Bacteria and mold need water to grow, and since white rice is dried out, there's nothing for them to feed on. That means if you keep it sealed and dry, it won't spoil, rot, or go bad, even after years in your pantry. Now, this doesn't apply to all types of rice. Brown rice, for example, has more natural oils in the bran layer, which can cause it to go rancid over time. But white rice, that's the real long-term player. Whether it's jasmine, basmati, or plain long grain, as long as it stays dry, it'll stay good. If you're prepping for emergencies or just trying to save money by buying in bulk, white rice is a smart pick. You can store big bags or buckets full, and they'll still be edible years later. Just make sure to keep them away from moisture, heat, and pests. Here's a pro tip. For even longer storage, many survivalists use Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. This method removes air and locks in freshness, giving rice a shelf life of up to 25 to 30 years. Some even vacuum seal it for extra protection. You might have found an old bag in your cupboard and wondered if it's still safe. If the packaging is intact and there are no bugs or smells, then yes, it's still good, no need to throw it out. So whether you're cooking for your family, preparing for power outages, or just looking for budget-friendly staples, rice is a must-have. It's cheap, filling, and built to last. Store it right, keep it dry, and let it sit quietly in your pantry until you need it. Because when it comes to white rice, time really isn't an issue. It's made to survive. 9. Oats. Oats are more than just a cozy morning meal. They're also one of those foods that can last for years if stored properly. Whether you buy them rolled, steel cut, or instant oats have a long shelf life that makes them perfect for stockpiling. The reason oats last so long is simple. They're dry. Like rice and beans, oats have very little moisture, which means bacteria and mold don't stand a chance. As long as they stay sealed and dry, they won't spoil, rot, or go bad, even after years on the shelf. Now, there's a small difference between types of oats when it comes to storage. Instant oats tend to go stale faster because they're pre-cooked and dried, which can make them a bit more sensitive to air and humidity. But steel cut and rolled oats, those are your best bets for long-term storage. They keep their quality much longer and still cook up great when the time comes. If you've ever opened an old bag of oats and noticed they taste a little bland or feel a bit off, it might be because they were exposed to air for too long. That doesn't mean they're unsafe, it just means some flavor and texture may have faded. A quick smell test will tell you if they're still good. If they smell normal and show no signs of bugs or moisture, then you're all set to eat. So next time you see a forgotten bag in the back of your pantry, don't toss it out of habit. give it a check. If it looks and smells fine, it probably still is. Because when it comes to oats, time really isn't the enemy. Keep them sealed tight, store them right, and let them sit quietly until you need a warm, filling meal. Because oats, they're built to last. 10. Powdered milk. If you're looking for a long-lasting dairy option that doesn't need refrigeration, powdered milk is your best friend. Unlike fresh milk, which spoils in days, powdered milk can sit on your shelf for years. Yes, years, and still be good to use. The secret behind powdered milk's long life is simple. The water is removed during processing. Without moisture, bacteria can't grow, and mold has no chance to form. That's why, as long as it stays dry, powdered milk won't spoil, even after decades in storage. You might have used powdered milk before when camping or making baked goods, but here's what most people don't realize. It's also an excellent emergency food. In fact, many survivalists and preppers keep large supplies of it because it's lightweight, easy to store, and packed with nutrients like calcium and protein. Now, here's something important. Not all powdered milk is created equal. There's non-fat dry milk and whole milk powder. Non-fat tends to last longer, up to 10 or even 20 years if stored properly. Whole milk powder, with its higher fat content, has a shorter shelf life but still lasts much longer than regular milk. Once opened, powdered milk starts to absorb moisture from the air, which can affect taste and quality over time. So it's best to store it in airtight containers, ideally with oxygen absorbers, to keep it fresh for as long as possible. So next time you see a can of powdered milk hiding in your pantry, don't assume it's expired. Check the seal, smell it. If it looks and smells normal, then yes, it's still good. Store it right, keep it dry, and let it sit quietly until you need it most. Because when it comes to powdered milk, time really isn't an issue. It's made to survive. 11. Canned vegetables. Canned vegetables are one of those foods that quietly do their job without asking for much in return. They sit on your shelf, waiting patiently until you need them. And guess what? They can wait for years. Unlike fresh veggies that rot within days, or frozen ones that depend on power, canned vegetables are built to last. Thanks to the canning process, they're sealed tight, keeping bacteria out and flavor locked in. As long as the can stays intact, no dents, rust, or bulges, your veggies inside should be just fine. Most canned vegetables have a shelf life of 2 to 5 years, but here's the surprise. That doesn't mean they suddenly go bad after that date. In reality, many stay safe and edible for much longer, sometimes even decades. The quality might fade over time with changes in texture or taste, but they won't make you sick. You've probably seen old cans in the back of your pantry and wondered if they're still good. If the seal is strong, there's no leakage, and the lid hasn't popped when opened, then yes, they're likely still usable. Just give them a quick smell and visual check before eating. Store them in a cool, dry place away from direct sunlight or extreme temperatures. Heat and moisture are the real enemies of canned goods, so keeping them in a dark pantry or cupboard is ideal. So next time you reach for a can of veggies, remember, you're grabbing something that's not only easy and nutritious, but also built to survive. Because when it comes to canned vegetables, time isn't the problem. It's part of the plan. 12. Canned tomatoes. Canned tomatoes are like liquid gold in the pantry, versatile, rich in flavor, and packed with acidity that helps them last way longer than fresh tomatoes ever could. And here's the kicker, they don't really expire. As long as the can stays sealed and undamaged, canned tomatoes can last for years without going bad. The reason they last so long is simple science. Tomatoes are naturally high in acid, which acts as a preservative by stopping bacteria from growing. During the canning process, they're heated to high temperatures, killing off any microbes that might spoil them. Then they're sealed tight, locking in freshness and keeping air out. You've probably used canned tomatoes for sauce, soups, stews, or chili, and if you've ever found an old can hiding behind the pasta, you might have paused before opening it. But unless the can is bulging, leaking, or rusted through, that tomato goodness inside is still safe to use. Now, here's something most people don't realize. While canned tomatoes won't go bad, their quality can fade over time. After several years, the color might darken, the texture could soften, and the flavor might not be as bright as when they were first canned. But they're still perfectly edible, just maybe not quite as vibrant. So next time you see that forgotten can at the back of your shelf, don't toss it out of habit. Give it a check. If it smells normal and looks fine, then yes, it's still good to go. Because when it comes to canned tomatoes, time isn't the enemy, it's just along for the ride. 13. Peanut butter. Peanut butter is one of those comfort foods that feels like a hug in a jar. It's creamy, it's rich, and believe it or not, it doesn't go bad as fast as you might think. Especially if it's unopened, peanut butter can last for years without spoiling. The secret behind its long shelf life comes down to two things: oil and fat. Peanut butter is packed with oils that act like a natural preservative. As long as the jar stays sealed and stored properly, bacteria and mold have no chance to grow inside. Most store-bought peanut butters also contain stabilizers and preservatives that help extend their shelf life even further. That means your average commercial peanut butter, like the kind you grab at the grocery store, can easily last up to 2 years on the shelf before opening. Once opened, things change a bit. Exposure to air and moisture from your knife can introduce bacteria over time. That's why open peanut butter usually only lasts about 3 to 6 months in the pantry before it starts to taste stale or develop off smells. So whether you're spreading it on toast, making a quick sandwich, or whipping up some sauté sauce, peanut butter is more than just tasty. It's built to survive. Keep it sealed, store it smart, and let it sit quietly until you need that creamy boost. Because when it comes to peanut butter, time really isn't the problem. It's made to last. 14. Hardtack crackers. Hardtack might not win any flavor awards, but when it comes to survival food, it's a legend. This simple rock-hard cracker has been around for centuries, and for good reason. It doesn't spoil, it doesn't rot, and if stored right, it can last for decades, even centuries. So, what exactly is hardtack? Basically, it's just flour, water, and maybe a little salt, baked until it's as dry as a desert. No fancy ingredients, no preservatives, just pure simplicity that makes it nearly indestructible. That's why hardtack was the go-to food for soldiers, sailors, and explorers of the past. During wars, troops carried it in their packs, knowing it could survive heat, cold, and long journeys without going bad. Some Civil War era hardtack still exists today, and yes, it's still edible. Even regular crackers, especially the plain salted kind, can last for years if kept sealed and dry. They won't win you any gourmet points, but in an emergency, they're filling, portable, and reliable. But here's something most people don't know. While hardtack lasts forever, eating it straight up can feel like chewing on a brick. That's why old-timers would soak it in water, coffee, or soup to soften it before eating. And guess what? You don't have to be in the military or stuck on a ship to benefit from this ancient snack. If you're prepping for emergencies, stocking up for camping trips, or just want a no-nonsense pantry staple, hardtack and long-lasting crackers should be on your list. Store them in airtight containers away from humidity and pests, and they'll sit quietly in your cupboard until you really need them. So next time you see a box of basic crackers, or even pick up some modern hardtack made for preppers, don't think of it as boring snacking. It's actually a timeless survival tool. Because when it comes to hardtack and shelf-stable crackers, time doesn't stand a chance. They're built to outlast. 15. Whole spices. Spices are the secret weapon in every kitchen, turning simple meals into something special. But here's a little-known fact. Whole spices never really expire. Unlike their ground counterparts, whole spices like peppercorns, cinnamon sticks, cloves, and star anise can last indefinitely if stored properly. The reason is simple. Whole spices stay sealed in their natural oils. These oils carry all the flavor and aroma we love, and as long as they're protected inside the whole spice, they don't evaporate easily. Once spices are ground, though, that protective shell is gone, and so is their shelf life, slowly fading over time. So, while ground spices might lose punch after a couple of years, whole spices just keep going. You'll still get that bold bite from black peppercorns, the sweet warmth from cinnamon bark, or the sharp bite of whole cumin seeds, even if they've been sitting in your cupboard for ages. Just store them in a cool, dark place in airtight containers and keep them away from heat and humidity. That way they'll sit quietly in your pantry, waiting for their moment to shine. Because when it comes to whole spices, time isn't the enemy, it's just along for the ride. 16. Maple syrup. Maple syrup is one of those sweet treats that feels like liquid gold, not just because of its rich flavor, but also because it can last for years, even decades without going bad, as long as it stays unopened. Yes, I read that right. Pure maple syrup doesn't expire. Not really. It's packed with natural sugars which act like a preservative by keeping bacteria and mold from growing. That means if you find an old bottle in the back of your pantry, sealed tight and untouched, there's a good chance it's still perfectly fine to use. Now, Here's something most people don't know. The older the syrup gets, the darker and more intense the flavor can become. Some people actually prefer the deeper taste of aged maple syrup. It's like vintage wine, but for pancakes. But there's a small catch. Once you open the bottle, things change. Exposure to air and moisture can introduce yeast or mold over time. If you store it in the fridge after opening, though, it'll stay fresh for years without spoiling. So next time you reach for that forgotten bottle hiding behind the pancake mix, don't assume it's gone bad. Give it a quick check. If it smells sweet and looks normal, then yes, it's still good to go. 17. Alcohol, high proof. Here's something most people don't realize. High proof alcohol never really expires. That bottle of vodka, rum, or whiskey sitting on your shelf, it's not just for parties. It's also a long-term pantry item that laughs at expiration dates. As long as the bottle stays sealed and stored properly, high-proof spirits like vodka, gin, rum, tequila, and whiskey can last indefinitely without going bad. Unlike wine or beer, which can degrade over time, distilled alcohol is self-preserving thanks to its high alcohol content. The key here is proof. Most standard spirits are bottled at 40% ABV, alcohol by volume, or higher. That level of alcohol creates an environment where bacteria, yeast, and mold simply can't survive. No microbes, no spoilage, so your drink stays safe and unchanged for years. So whether you're sipping it neat, mixing up cocktails, or prepping for emergencies, high-proof alcohol is more than just a drink. It's a timeless staple, because when it comes to strong spirits, time doesn't stand a chance. They're built to let. 18. Dark chocolate, high cocoa content. Dark chocolate might not be the first thing you think of when it comes to long-lasting foods, but here's a sweet surprise. Real dark chocolate with high cocoa content doesn't really expire. In fact, it can last for years, sometimes even decades, if stored properly. Now, before you get excited, this only applies to true dark chocolate, the kind with at least 70% cocoa or higher. Milk chocolate, not so much. That extra dairy makes it go bad faster. But pure dark chocolate, that stuff is built to survive. The secret lies in its ingredients. Dark chocolate is low in moisture and packed with cocoa solids and cocoa butter, both of which are naturally stable and resistant to spoilage. As long as it stays dry and away from heat, it won't rot or mold like other foods. So next time you find that forgotten bar behind the cereal boxes, don't toss it out of habit. Give it a try. You might just discover that chocolate doesn't just taste better with time, it survives it too. Because when it comes to real dark chocolate, time isn't the enemy, it's just passing through. If you made it this far, you now know the 18 foods that never expire, and how to stockpile them like a pro. Thanks for watching, and remember, when it comes to food storage, knowledge is power. And sometimes it lasts forever.